In casual conversation, terms like nation, state, and power are treated as synonyms. This semantic blur collapses distinct geopolitical ideas into one vague concept. The lack of precision obscures the mechanics of governance, making it difficult to analyze why some systems fail while others endure. True political analysis requires us to isolate structural entities from cultural identities. To establish these distinctions, we model a functioning system from first principles. This model relies on 9 components to define the relationship between people and power. These 9 concepts provide the vocabulary necessary to move past headlines into the structural reality of political science. Without this framework, the mechanics of international relations or the logic of competing ideologies remain out of reach. We have to understand the assembly of the state before we can critique its performance. Recognizing this underlying architecture is what separates a casual observer from a political scientist. We begin with the state, an independent political organization that functions as a legal and geographic entity. A state is defined by 4 requirements. If any are missing, it cannot claim statehood. Physically, it needs a permanent population within a defined territory. Operationally, it requires a government to administer it, and sovereignty to maintain external independence. This political structure is often confused with a nation, but a nation is a cultural community. It is a group of people who share a common identity through language, history, ethnicity, or shared traditions. As this matrix shows, the two are not linked. A state is defined by its political and geographic boundaries, while a nation is defined by social and cultural ties that may exist with or without a formal government or territory. This street in Japan illustrates a nation-state, a rare alignment where a distinct cultural nation and a sovereign political state occupy the same space. Conversely, the Kurdish people share a powerful national identity, but are spread across multiple existing countries. They are a nation without an independent state. The state is a rigid legal boundary. The nation is a fluid human identity. Within the state, we find the government. It is a temporary group of people and institutions that exercise authority. While governments change through elections or transitions, the state itself remains. The government administers the state through 3 mechanical branches. The legislature is responsible for the creation of laws. The executive takes those laws and implements them. The judiciary interprets the laws and resolves disputes, keeping the branches within legal limits. This is the Indian Parliament, which serves as the legislative engine of the country, where representatives debate and draft laws. The Supreme Court of India, pictured here, represents the judiciary, providing the final interpretation of the law in a real-world democracy. Protecting this machinery is sovereignty, the supreme authority of a state to govern itself. It creates a legal perimeter that allows for internal control while preventing other states from interfering in domestic policy. If the government is the internal engine, sovereignty is the hull that allows it to function without external disruption. With the machinery in place, we have to consider what compels a population to obey it. The most direct mechanism is power, the ability to influence or coerce behavior regardless of consent. A regime ruling through military force or fear relies on this pure, raw capacity for control. Power is distinct from authority. Authority is legitimate power, influence that the public recognizes as rightful and acceptable. We obey a judge not just because of the threat of a cell, but because we accept the legal system's right to rule. This matrix highlights the trade-off. Power can rely on coercion, but often meets resistance. Authority relies on acceptance, leading to voluntary obedience. The presence of legitimacy is the factor that transforms raw force into stable authority. Legitimacy is the public belief that the government has a valid right to exercise power. People follow the law because they believe the source of that law is genuine and rightful. This legitimacy is built through free and fair elections, consistent application of the law, and trust through effective governance. While power can force compliance in the short term, a stable state depends on converting power into authority by securing the legitimacy of the governed. In modern states, this relationship is often formalized through a constitution. A constitution is the supreme law of a state, establishing the framework for how power is shared and exercised. It functions as a limiting mechanism, defining the distribution of powers and preventing the state from overstepping its bounds. Rashtrapati Bhawan, seen here, is part of the architecture of the Indian state, a system that has been governed by its constitution since January 26, 1950. This constitutional framework is linked to the individual through citizenship. Citizenship is the formal legal tether between the person and the state. This tether creates a two-way flow of responsibilities. Upward, we have duties, obligations citizens owe to society, like obeying laws and common defense. Downward, we have rights, protections the state must provide, like free speech and equality. Rights protect individuals from state overreach, while duties provide the social order required for the state to function. A balanced political system is a closed loop. The Constitution limits the government, while citizens fulfill their roles to maintain the system's viability. This completed model provides the architectural foundation of the state. A state requires territory and a population, administered by a government and shielded by sovereignty. It is guided by a constitution, validated by legitimate authority, and sustained by citizens' rights and duties. While individual political actors and specific governments change frequently, this underlying structure remains the constant of political science. With these 9 components defined, we can move into political theory, examining how thinkers like Karl Marx or John Locke argued these pieces should be arranged to build a just society. By identifying these foundational concepts, the noise of global politics resolves into a readable, logical system.